So hello everybody, it is Friday, so it's time for another DAX Fridays, a new DAX function every single Friday. Now, in today's DAX Fridays, I'm going to show you how to work with PRODUCTX. This is something that you asked me for, and here it is. Okay. PRODUCTX return the product of an expression evaluated for each row in a table. Forget about that. Let's pretend that it didn't happen. It is a table and then you have an expression, and the useful thing is that it blanks, logical values and text are ignored. Okay, so if you have a blank, we'll ignore it. Now, this is the example that I'm going to do. It says it computes different values of an investment, so future value. So it calculates the investment, the return of investment. So let's say that you invest $100 in something and you get a percentage every year, and then you want to calculate how much money you will get every year based on that interest. And here it says how it is calculated: present value times PRODUCTX, annuity periods plus the fixed interest rate. So let's go to Power BI. Here we have our super table. It has a year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the return rate for your investment. So if you invest 100 euros, the year 1, you'll get 3% of that money, year 2, 5%, year 8, or you got, basically. This is probably like looking forward. So how much did you actually get? How big was your investment? Okay, so to calculate the investment rate is exactly how they say. Let's say that, again, we invested 100 euros initially. So for year 1, it will be 100 times 1 plus the rate, which is 0.03. Okay, now year 2 is like this. 2 is 100 again times 1 plus 0.03, which is what you made year 1. That doesn't disappear. What you made year 1, and then you have to add times what you make year 2, 1 plus 0.05. Okay, so that's the deal. You don't go back to 100 and calculate that. You get some money and then you invest and you get benefits from the money that you make on year 1. Nothing weird, okay? So what product does, the product function is exactly that. It gets all the values in one column and it multiplies it. So it gets, for example, if we would do product just for rate 1, it would say 3 times 5 times 8 times 10, okay? Which is exactly what we want to be able to calculate the interest rate for this. So let's get rid of that, and let's start with the suggestion that we got from the documentation. Let's remove the pen, and we go here, new measure, and we're going to do the returns of project 1. And they said that it was our initial investment, 100 euros, times, and then they said write product X, and then put the table. Our table is called return, and then it says 1 class return rate 1, because we're calculating this for project 1. So this is what they say, do this to calculate the growth rate. If we put it in here, you're going to see that something is not really calculating the way it should. Let me show you. So we go in there and we start with row 1, and it is doing 100, exactly what we wanted, times, and then 1 plus 0.03, which is 103. That's great, that's exactly what we wanted. Now let's look at row 2, what it's doing. It's doing 100 times 1 plus 0.05, which is equal to 105. And that's not what we wanted. It's not multiplying the first value. It's just seeing each row. So the PRODUCTX function, this function, instead of getting feed for the first row, row 1, and for the second row, row 1 and 2, it's just getting feed one row at a time, and that will not work. That will not do the calculation that we want. So how do we do it? Okay, what we need to do is to feed PRODUCTX the table that we want. It means for row 1, feed year 1. For row 2, you have to feed year 1 and year 2. For row 3, you have to feed 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. So we need to modify this. We have to go to calculate. The calculation is the same, but what gets fed to PRODUCTX, we decide in here. So what table goes in PRODUCTX? It gets decided in there. Let's go in there, and then we go filter. Let's put it in there, filter, and then we put return, feed the return table, but we want to have where year, return year is less or equal than the max of return year. Okay, and we close that, and it is actually giving us the exact same result, which is not what we wanted. And I will tell you why, and I will tell you how to fix that. Let's go back into that. So what we just created now, or what we thought we created, it was like this. So row 1, exactly the same thing. It is 100 times 1 plus 0.03 equals 103. What we thought that we were feeding for line 2, it was 100 times, and then here it gets a table with row 1 0.03 and row 2 0.05, and then it has to do 1 plus that one times 1 plus that one. That's what we wanted, but that is not what is happening. As you can see, there is still a filter, a row filter, that is just exposing, instead of these 2 rows, it's just exposing this row, and that is not what we want. So how do we remove filters that we don't want? How? You know this answer, come on. So you do it with all remove filters. Remove the row filters. And ta-da! We have our return of investment calculation correctly. How awesome is that? Okay, I hope this explains how PRODUCTX works, gives you a little bit more insights as how things get calculated in Power Pivot, Power BI, and it is all for today. So I will see you again on Monday with another video, maybe an announcement, we'll see. And until then, have a great weekend. Enjoy the sun, it is sunny here, and I'll see you again next week. Bye bye.